Here accepting for the late Dan Maas is his father, Fred Maas.
RMAC for recognizing Dan's achievements. But as I spoke of in the video, these people who learn how to be great champions and great people are examples for our youth to learn from. Dominic said it so very well. I salute you, sir, and the other champions. A few little vignettes, perhaps. When Danny was 10, he read a book called Watch for Me on the Mountain. It's the story of Geronimo. One of the things in there, it was said that Geronimo would run carrying a mouthful of water and not swallow it. He would run for 3 miles and then spit it out at the foot of his mentor. Danny decided, well, if Geronimo could do that for 3 miles, he could do it for 6. So he spent the next weeks and several months training himself. It's a training in self-discipline that he undertook on his own. At age 11, you saw something about Terry Fox. Terry Fox inspired him. He said, this isn't fair. I said, Danny, life isn't fair. And he says, it doesn't matter, this is wrong. Terry Fox had run 3,332 miles across Canada after losing a leg. He was running on a very poor prosthesis. And he had a recurrence of cancer, and his attempt to run across Canada was halted. So that led to, we had to do something. So Danny insisted that we found this run in Terry's name. We actually spoke to Terry on the phone that morning, and the whole team spoke to Terry on the speakerphone. But Danny had a cold, and I stopped him from running. He was only 11. I stopped him from running after he had gone 10 miles. It was also snowing out. It was March. I said, you're going to catch pneumonia. He says, I'll only stop if we can do it again next year and you won't stop me. I was hoping it was going to be 1 year. So the next year, he gathered 110 $1 per mile pledges for every mile that he ran, and then he ran. He ran all day. The other kids say they quit between 10 and 15 miles. Danny's 12. He's running 15, 17, 20 miles. He hadn't trained for this. It gets dark. I'd long since given up. I got in the car and I'm driving behind him, calling out the window, when are you going to stop? He says, I'm never going to stop. I said, you're going to stop sometime. Terry Fox averaged 23 miles a day. How about if you stop at 23 miles? He agreed to that. It's the only way I could get him to stop. He kept it going all through high school. After college, he became an inspirational speaker for the American Cancer Society. His whole life was about giving to others as much as he could. But I should say something about him as a competitor. Now, he wouldn't want to get on the mat with this gentleman or play football with this guy, but you wouldn't want to run against him. I remember one time he found himself running against, well, it was the NCAA Division I 1,500-meter champion. And that man decided, well, little NAIA guy, I'll introduce myself to him and be nice. And he says, I want to introduce myself. I'm Carlton Jones, but my friends call me Buck. Danny said, nice to meet you, Carlton. Yeah, Danny beat him. You talk about he won 6 national championships. Actually, he won 7. He also won the 5K one year, but an athlete veered across the track and smacked into him from the side, and the judges decided to disqualify both individuals from the contact. But then he went on from there to win that race before they disqualified him. So he actually won 7. Afterwards, the other athlete begged the officials not to disqualify Dan, asserting he had nothing to do with it. What can you do? One of his national championships, he placed last in every race all season long because he had a mononucleosis. Makes you very weak. Right at the end of the season, he did manage a qualifying time to qualify for nationals. So he went to nationals, and prelims, he just barely managed to qualify for finals. And he telephoned me, and he said, "Dad, I qualified for finals, but I feel so weak." I said, "Mononucleosis attacks the liver. The liver is where you store the B vitamins. OD on B vitamins. I'm sure Coach Joe has it in his satchel. I'll drive all night and I'll be there first thing in the morning." We got there first thing in the morning. I knocked on his motel door, opened the door, and this aroma comes out of the room. B vitamins, just overwhelming. I said, "That ought to do." So he gets into the race with no idea what he's going to be able to do. I asked him, "What are you going to do? How are you going to approach this?" He says, "I'll take it 100 meters at a time. I'll run with the leader around the first turn. If I can still run, I'll stay with the leader down the back stretch. At the end of the back stretch, if I can still stay with him, I'll stay with him around the next turn." He gets to the last 100 meters, and he's still with the leader. It's just the two of them. And they're in full flight down the stretch to the finish line. I turned to Coach Vigil, standing next to me. The tears are running down his face. So I have no idea how he's doing that. I said, I know. They get about 30 yards from the finish line. The other athlete was Dan Bertoya, Canadian national champion, silver medalist at the Pan Am Games, and his head goes back. As soon as the head goes back, you know the man's done. The head goes back, he doesn't even know what happens, shortens the stride. He's trying as hard as he can, but the stride just got shorter. Pressure came off of it. Dan's chin was still down through the finish line. And the rest of the story, the fourth year, his third 1,500-meter championship was in Vancouver, British Columbia. It was the hometown of Terry Fox. He telephoned Terry Fox's mother, and he said, "I will be running in the 1,500 meters, and I will dedicate my race to your son. And I'll be wearing a bracelet that I made with his name on it." Unbeknownst to Dan, Terry Fox's mother called the TV station and told the TV station about it. Unusually, for a track meet, the stands were filled. And for the 1,500-meter race, the fans were chanting, "Terry, Terry." Nobody understood what was going on, except Dan, who not only won it, but set the NAIA record for the event. When Dan was hit by a car at age 14, broke his leg. His leg was broken at a 90-degree angle. The doctor said he'd never run again. When I got to him in the hospital, his leg was in a whole leg cast, even though the break was just above the ankle. And he said to me, Dad, the doctors say I'll never run again. What do you think? I said, son, doesn't matter what I think, only matters what you think. He said, I think I'll be national champion someday. I said, well, then you have a chance. He said, when can we start training? I said, how about now? He said, how do we do it now? I said, well, we'll use isometrics with the leg that isn't in the cast, and we'll stress that leg, and the other leg won't know that it wasn't exercising, and we'll keep the muscle in that leg while it's in the cast. Great, he said, let's start. Of course, I made all that up. He was in the cast. Well, I could tell more details here. Do you want me to? No. She says no. After he got out of the cast, after 7 weeks, we were down in Mexico, and I was down there with a writer and a poet. And we were running along the beach, and it was sundown, and just as the sun was setting, we looked through the saguaro cactus, and all the edges of the cactus were rainbows. The light was being split and scattered by the needles of the cactus. I've never seen it before or since. And my friend Jerry said, that cactus, it's on fire. I said, no, Jerry, it's a dispersion of the light, the refraction, the light's being all split into its different colors. He says, no, you don't understand. The cactus is on fire. Well, we ran back to the campsite, and I started a fire. It was dark now, and Jerry wrote a poem. We never showed Danny the poem. This was the poem. I know, though you have doubts, how this will go. You will pass them all one by one until you stand alone atop the stubble-bearded hill. For I have seen it in the fire-lit saguaro. One finger of fire pointed up, one fist of flame bunched on the finish line. We never showed Danny that poem. 3 years later, at the state track meet, he took 17 seconds off the previous state record in the mile. Photograph was taken of him coming through the finish line. It was exactly that pose. It's the picture that's on the shirt for the run. Thank you all very much. Let Danny inspire you.